For me in parenting, there's some kind of intersection between tolerating the feelings and accepting bad behavior when there's difficult feelings. How do we navigate that?
Mm-hmm. That's a really good question, really important. Yeah. And this is something we all struggle with. Yeah. Yeah. I'm across all the ideas, but I still struggle, just to be really clear about that. Because it does feel tricky. But essentially, the behavior and the feeling can be separated. So we can set boundaries around behavior whilst also allowing the feeling. We can say, okay, depending on their age, we're not always going to explain it verbally. We might just help them physically if needed. Yeah. And stop the behavior in some way, but without saying, this feeling is wrong, this feeling is bad, you should stop feeling this way.
So, more like it's okay that you're angry,
Mm-hmm.
but stop kicking the wall.
Yeah. And that's not about, that you could say that. And then what if they don't stop kicking the wall? What does that mean? Or you have a, what
I
would you do then?
guess it would mean to me that they're kind of overcome by the feeling and
Yeah,
they kind of can't stop kicking the
they
wall.
can't. Yeah, exactly. They're not able to engage in that reasonable and verbal manner.
And this is where I come unstuck
Mm.
because
Mm.
then,
Yeah.
you know, I know it's probably partly my inability to tolerate
Mm.
the feeling as well,
Mm.
although I work really hard at that to
Mhm.
tolerate all feelings. But when that behavior can come out and the instructions can't be heeded because it's a meltdown situation,
Yeah.
that is when I would tend to do my bad parenting
Mm.
of kind of punishing what they're doing, which I imagine might feel like I'm punishing the meltdown. What can parents do in those kind of moments?
Mm. As I'm happy to give an example of how we might respond to that. But I wonder if we could slow down for a moment and first notice this, that we have this feeling, so many of us parents, of looking for what to do and looking for that answer outside of ourselves. I think it's really worth noticing that, because I actually think that that is one of the core things that are making things difficult. That is one of the core issues that's holding parents back and stopping them from being able to be the leaders that their children need, because we're not really trusting ourselves then, are we? When we're looking for, there's something we feel, and understandably, we are challenged, we have our own triggers. So not to make this wrong in any way. But yeah, notice that we want to look for,
Yeah,
what
like
is
I
the
really
right
want
thing?
you to tell me the solution.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Like tell me the thing that I
Mm.
can do
Mm-hmm.
to make this situation easier or not exist.
Yeah. And if we again, if we take our time to get to that answer, if we take a moment to connect with, being with a child, the image and the experience of being with a child in that state. And for a lot of us, it brings up this feeling of anger and frustration, and we see our child as being bad, as being entitled, as being attention seeking, manipulative, things like that. So if we pause for a moment and imagine we're seeing our child like that, and let's notice when we are in that frame of mind, how we respond. Like what type of thing comes up for us? Can you
Yeah.
connect with anything that you might share?
I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is there's an immediate disconnection
Mm-hmm.
between me and her, that I'm judging what she's doing. And, part of me is like, yeah, she's kicking the wall. Of course, I'm judging it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that there's an immediate, I'm right and you're wrong, and you need to be different,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't feel how I want to parent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you notice something like a harshness, a disconnect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A
Yeah.
hard heart.
Hardening. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And then if we now go back to that scenario but we look at our child through a different lens. And this time we see our child as having a really hard time and that they actually don't want to be doing this. They don't actually know why they're doing it, probably. They just can't stop themselves and they're really struggling. And they actually know what they're doing as well that is wrong, because we often can get confused there and think that we have to tell them, but they know very early on the right and wrong things, the things that they shouldn't be doing. So imagine being, holding that child with that lens of like, wow, they are doing this thing that they don't want to be doing. They know it's upsetting us. And
Yeah.
what feeling does that bring up? How does that?
It feels much softer, and I also feel more in my adult
Mm,
self. Like I feel less in a power struggle, more in like, oh,
mm,
you're really struggling
mm,
right now.
mm, mhm,
Sometimes I have more capacity for that.
mm,
Sometimes I have more capacity for that than I do at other
mm,
times. Sometimes I find it quite easy to stay in
mm,
my role as a loving parent
mm,
through those times. But depending on how much other stuff is
mm,
on me,
mhm,
sometimes I'm very quick
mm.
to kind of disconnect and become a bit authoritarian.
Yeah. Mm,
What supports parents, or what can we be trying to keep in mind? I mean, you've kind of said it, but what can we be trying to keep in mind in those moments where we feel ourselves getting a bit flooded
mm,
with our reaction?
mm. Yeah, well, maybe in that moment, we might need a timeout. The parent, that is. Maybe we need a bit of space to step aside, go to the bathroom, collect ourselves, so we're not passing on that flooding. Yeah.
Because always later, and often hear parents talk about, oh, when they're asleep and you go in and they're asleep, and the
Mm.
soft heart returns. And I know a lot of parents that I speak to in my work and socially,
Mm.
later parents feel like, oh, if,
Mm.
if only I had been able to have this softness
Mm.
when all of this was going down earlier. Oh, I reacted
Mm.
too strongly to
Mm.
what my child was doing. And again, I want you to tell me a magic bullet
Mhm.
that, yeah,
Mm.
how can we
Mm.
do this better?
Mm.
Like it's the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, it is. It's the hardest job there is, I think. Yeah, it really is. And the most important at the same time. Like, so that's pretty scary, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
being such an important part of shaping a whole human. But yes, I think when you are reflecting and you regret something like that, that is beautiful. It's so beautiful, and that's a positive thing. So, and we can have that steer our action from there. So what action could come from that? What could flow on? What are you driven to do when you feel that way?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is repair,
Mm-hmm.
to talk about what
Mm.
happened and to own that I think I reacted
Mm.
too harshly
Mm-hmm.
to what they were doing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And right there, you're modeling so many really positive qualities and lessons. Yeah.
Makes me think of the difference between power, which is what I would
Mm.
be exerting when I have a harsh reaction or a disciplinary kind of reaction to what my
Mm.
child's doing, versus leadership that you
Mhm.
mentioned before. What do you see as the difference between those things in parenting?
Mm-hmm. Like power over versus leadership. Yeah, because they might not sound that far apart from each other. Yeah, yeah. So I guess a good leader, listens, invites people in, and there's collaboration and conversation, isn't there? Yeah. But the more authoritarian, dictator and that sort of vibe, that's doesn't do that at all, does it?
No.
Yeah.
And a leader, sounds more like inviting someone into what you want to create versus having power over or being authoritarian.